I want you to look through these translucent gums and notice the shape of the roots. So you'll notice that here we've got a second molar. It has two roots that are apparent. They're actually three. This one has three roots. The bicuspids can have one or two roots, but they're really narrower. This guy is a canine. Canines are really important teeth because they take a lot of the forces as we grind from side to side. So watch on this model what happens when I act as though somebody's moving their jaw. So the canine points are touching. You see the canines are touching. We also call them eye teeth. Why is that? Well, the eye teeth line up with your pupils. So if you look straight into the mirror, make a line directly down from your pupil of your eye, and you'll find it lines up with your canine teeth. So we call it eye teeth. So in this model, now we can see all these roots. And an important part of what the roots do of teeth is they take force deep in bone. The surface area of each root is 6 times the surface area that you chew with. So let's look at some examples. Here's a lower jaw. I'm going to remove a molar. So this molar has 6 times the surface on that root that it does on the chewing surface. Here's a bigger molar. So this guy also has 6 times the surface. You can't really tell too well looking at this model, but inside the socket there's quite a space in there. And the model doesn't show the structure of bone. So the bony socket is a thick plate of bone that forms to better handle the stresses transmitted by the roots. Now I look at this bicuspid, a single root, much smaller, and you see how it is not square. So the shape of the root directly relates to the work that's placed on that tooth in your mouth. So if you look at it from this direction, you'll see that it's not too wide from front to back, but it is pretty wide from essentially cheek to tongue. When I come up to the canine, here's the canine. And the canine is a very important tooth because it takes all this stress as a corner tooth. And see how wide that tooth is from cheek to tongue. So we really cherish canines. If I could only save 2 teeth in someone's mouth, I'd save 2 lower canines. If only I could have 4 teeth, I'd want all the canines. Then I'd go for first molar. But imagine if you're someone like this where you're missing all these teeth. Well, there's nothing to chew against the upper teeth, so in this case they're all useless. They don't have a purpose in this case. Now, there's another point I'd like to make about stress. So let's suppose we're missing 2 teeth. So here's our second molar in the lower. We're missing a first molar and a bicuspid. So you can see that the upper teeth don't have anything to chew with above this space. You see these 2 guys back here. Well, they have a lot of stress. Now, on this model, you see a hinge that's nowhere near as complex as the hinge that we have in our mouth. But that hinge does represent something that looks kind of like a hinge for a nutcracker. So if you're going to break a nut, you put the nut close to the hinge. So when we chew, we tend to put things that are going to require more chewing power towards the back because we can get more force. So these teeth are really critical. Now imagine if you don't get to chew here because you're missing teeth. There's no chewing here. So these teeth get much more force. Well, what do you bet? When they're overloaded, they're more likely to want to break down and crack and break pieces off or even crack the root. So we have great concern for that. Now I'm going to move to my Nutcracker model. So we were just talking about how if we had a nutcracker and we wanted to break a nut, we would put the nut close to the hinge. So if I had a nut, I'm going to use my finger in this case, I'd put it right close to there so I could break it easily. So that's how a nutcracker works. So back to our model. And if our temporomandibular joint is like this hinge, then these molars get a whole lot more stress than the teeth that are farther forward. So we really have to do something that can handle the stress back here. We use bigger implants. We don't really like to see dentures that replace all the back teeth because they'll never get as much chewing force as natural teeth or implants. Now the implants are interesting because even though they don't look as big as these roots, and I'll make a comparison here. So here's a comparison where we're showing implant roots and natural tooth roots. Well, the implants don't look quite as big as those natural tooth roots. However, they can handle much more stress because they have a different way of attaching to the bone.